Okay, Chris, excited. Before we talk about vertical video and why it's taken over our screens, just the short elevator pitch of who you are and kind of what you spend your time on.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so I'm primarily the CEO of Cubco, which is a social media agency based in Copenhagen. We also have an office in New York, and we just opened up in Latvia as well. And I spend most of my day managing the team, figuring out our marketing, our own culture, and then also a little bit on my personal brand. I do speaking events, things like that. So most of my day is both, I would say, as a strategist, a client manager, a shoulder to cry on, and then also a content creator, similar to you, just making podcasts and content and trying to talk shit on the
Yeah,
internet as
we
much as possible.
we all love to talk shit on the internet. That's why we're here.
Yeah, so that's what I spend my time doing. Uh, yeah,
That-
I'm Canadian. I'm living in Europe for the past 15 years. I love it here, and I got a family, and
yeah,
yeah,
and you
that's
still
how it
can't
rolls.
speak Danish after 15 years. I keep on bugging you on
Jeg kan meget
that.
meget lidt, jeg kan tale dansk.
Okay. I mean, that's much better than I thought. So you're doing great.
There we go. That's the only phrase I know, and that's it.
Okay, so we met each other a few times. The last time I had you over to my mastermind group to talk about kind of vertical video and how it's taken over our lives, basically, and all the marketing people are jumping from one foot to another. Is it reels? Is it stories? Is it image posts? What is
Yeah,
it? And
yeah,
for everyone watching or listening, I'm gonna link to. You made a 2 episode podcast about kind of the summary of that presentation.
yeah.
So you should definitely listen to that, which is like 22 concrete tips on better vertical videos. But I want to
I'll
kind of
check it.
just get down and dirty and just drill into it and have some
Cool.
questions just to kind of pin down on things a little bit. So just to start it off, just this is quoting you just to set the stage for everyone who hasn't listened to the podcast yet. But everyone is going short. Vertical videos are reaching 14% more audiences than square videos and 90% more than image posts on Instagram at the moment. Vertical videos see a 90% higher completion rate. We're in a vertical world in so many different ways. So
Yeah,
first question, why do you think that is, that kind of now vertical is dominating and getting viewed more, getting spread more? Why is that?
yeah. Well, I think okay. So part of it is also the form factor, and that is that we're all sitting with these, and most people are using the video or the phone in this format, right? So part of that is that we can't be bothered to do this
We're so
anymore to
lazy.
turn it off. We're so lazy that we
Doing
don't
four
want to
more
do
reps
this.
there. There we go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if we're scrolling social feeds like this, we're scrolling websites like this, then it just makes sense that we consume video this way. So part of that is that.
Yes.
The other thing too is I think when we look at more short form entertainment, and that could be any videos from anywhere from 15 seconds, 10 seconds to 10
Yeah.
minutes, I would still say like that's still short form in my
Yeah.
mind. Really fits our attention spans and also our need for quick information. It also fits our on demand appetites. We really want to scroll through with as much content that we have available to us. We really need things to be fast and snappy. Otherwise, we would spend an entire day watching one video or two videos instead of 100 videos. So the shortness thing is really about the shortness in time that we have throughout the
Got
day.
it. And a trend
Yeah.
I've noticed between my friends and also between my son, who is 18, we share a lot more vertical videos than I think we used to share images or long form videos online. I think it has a different virality, and I think people are now in the habit of sharing funny things in a much broader sense. Do you have any stats kind of back that up or experience? Do you think that's true?
I don't have any stats to back it up, but I will say that video is, of course, like from a reptilian brain standpoint. Like the moving image, the sound, that experience really is core to us as humans versus maybe an image or even just an auditory thing. This is a podcast. I also do a podcast. So, auditory things are much harder to share. We're much more of a visual species. So the video sense really goes to our reptilian brain and really triggers us. And when we talk about relatability or relevance to us, I think we are all, specifically during the pandemic as well, I think it also helped us maybe as a coping mechanism through, the shit that we were dealing with in the world. Like that's where vertical video really exploded because we're all sitting at home. We're all maybe a little bit slightly anxious about where the world is going. Yeah. And we're just consuming much more and sharing more things because we needed to lift ourselves out of something. Yeah. So I think that's also what's happened to us as a society and as a people.
That makes sense. You say that quality does not matter anymore. So what do you mean by that?
Okay, so I have to give a little bit of a caveat to this because this one is a pendulum. And I think what's interesting to see now is how quality of idea is what matters.
Yes.
Like you could have the most janky footage, but if people can see what's relevant to them and also get a sense of like, this is interesting, then it doesn't matter if it's shot in 4K, doesn't matter if it's, super clear. If people can understand the idea and it's relevant for them, that's where it'll go viral. Because we've all seen, like, I work in advertising, you work in advertising, we've all seen these incredible campaigns that were super high-end production, millions of dollars were spent on the production, but then they flop because they don't have a good idea. So if you have a good idea and it's produced well, that'll still do well, right? So because you have the core, but you need that core idea. So what I would say is that even if you have that core idea and shoot it really crappy on this thing or whatever it is, that'll perform better than if you have no core idea and you shoot it with the most amazing IMAX cameras on the planet.
Makes sense. You told me that you kind of Cubco, your agency, has like this big storage room of all the cool, expensive cameras that you never use.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people.
That's basically where we're at now.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's true. But it's also funny, like from a spectrum standpoint, and I think it's only happening sort of recently. We're seeing a trend towards much, much higher quality vertical video coming out of creators because we're also seeing TikTok trying to compete with Netflix, trying to compete with YouTube. And YouTube and essentially like all the major creators there have really leveled up their production skills, right? And we're seeing now that come towards TikTok, and you're seeing a lot of creators leveling up their production capabilities because they need to stand out. The platform got extremely saturated. There's a lot of people now just shooting things. And what you're finding now is that the level is going up and up and up. You're even seeing the length of videos. I know we talked about short form, but we're even seeing the length of videos increase because TikTok is promoting that. They want people to stay on the platform longer.
Yeah.
So having creators on the platform that they can pay to essentially compete with YouTube that are producing long form content that keep people on the platform longer, that's what they're sort of pushing. Yeah. So at least from my perspective, that's what's happening. Some might argue that no, actually what they want is less videos or more videos, but higher view through rates, because what you want is people scrolling through a lot of videos because that gives them an opportunity to expose them to more advertising.
Yeah.
I don't know what the reality is.
I think it's a balance of between, those two factors, definitely. You also say that you don't know what works until you push publish. And you also had a great example when you start working with a lot of companies, you start with, 10xing the number of videos that you push out during a month because, it's usually not a lot of video and you don't know what works until kind of you just see what works. So is it always quantity over quality, or how should a brand think about it? Like if I'm between making one really great video and 25 crappy ones, which one should I choose?
That's a tough decision. I mean, I would say I would go with 10 mediocre ones or 10 in the middle, because here's the thing, like that one video that I could spend your entire budget on, it might not perform that well, and then we haven't learned anything. But if we have more volume and we have at least a decent quality in them, as long as the idea is good, then we can get a sense to if it's working for the audience or not.
Right. So it's more of the initial phase. You should experiment a lot and try to learn based on that. So you should have weekly meetings looking at the 10 videos you made last week. What didn't work? What worked? Why did it work? All that stuff, and then lean into production going forward.
Yeah, and it comes down to speed and budget. I mean, like if they have the budget and the speed to produce really high end quality, really great ideas, and produce 5 to 10 of those a week, I mean that's fantastic. I mean they'll explode, and they'll figure out very quickly what's working and what's not. The reality is that most companies don't have that, so we have to lower the production quality but increase the number of ideas that we throw against the wall. There is a shortcut though as well, like just tapping into their community, doing some social listening and figuring out what is already working in the community. Go to some Reddit forums, go to some sites that have that core audience that you want to get to, and you'll find them expressing ideas that you're like, oh yeah, that suits our brand really well. Let's make something relevant to them there. So you can kind of trick it a little bit by just listening to the community. But in most cases, brands just need to publish way, way more to get a sense of what is actually working for them and not.
Yeah. Another interesting thing you said was that TikTok now is turning more and more into a search engine for young people, for normals.
Yeah.
And that some brands are, thinking SEO, search engine optimization, around the content they're producing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're seeing a big change in search patterns. People are going to TikTok and searching best pizza place in Oslo, Norway, or where to get a tattoo in New York, or what's the best software for CRM. And what they're getting is more, I would say, authentic, at least as seen by them, and more honest and more quick and dirty things that they can just watch instead of reading. So they're saying, okay, I'd much rather watch a video from a person visiting Oslo about which pizza place, because then I can see the food, I can get experience of what's the restaurant like, and I get all of that in under a minute or in under 2 minutes, versus if I go to Google, I don't know if I trust that information as much because it's usually search engine optimized driven.
Yep.
And it's also usually not video, it's text. I got to read 5 different reviews and I got to do this and I got to do that. Whereas it's much quicker and delivered to me quicker if I go to TikTok for it. So we're finding a change in search behavior and a more recommendation, a more curated content sort of structure around TikTok videos that people are really liking and really utilizing.
It makes sense. And if I remember correctly, if you use, for example, in TikTok, the texting tools from TikTok, then those are searchable in terms of, so if you do texting or if you do some kind of captions, you should use the internal tool so it's searchable, right?
Yeah, and you see this with a lot of videos are being produced outside the platform and being, I've done it myself. I upload, like I send my videos off to somebody and they put the subtitles on and sort of hard burn them in. But I would suggest that that's probably not the best strategy going forward, because what you want is all of that content being recognized by the platform so that you are essentially search engine optimizing your content for people who are looking for, best whatever information about digital marketing, for example, or how do I build a brand, or how do I, whatever those things will be, you really want to get that information into the core data points of the video.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
moving then to a little bit production, I think that, I start to kind of see a very clear trend on who have thought through and are imitating kind of the TikTok vibe of the videos. I think it's quick cuts, it's movement, it is text in the video, it's more entertainment based, those kind of things. So is that the vibe Nordic company should think around when they're producing content?
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge that we see brands going to face is actually creating entertainment first and foremost. Like, how do you create entertainment around your business? And if you've got a very traditional business like a bank or a dentist office or a lawyer's, or whatever the business is, how do you create entertaining things that also don't erode your brand? Because if you are a serious brand, you also have to be serious. So there is a balance here, but it really is about how do you create drama? How do you storytell? How do you add some level of interesting things going on, instead of it just being, me sitting here going, "Hi, my name is so-and-so and I work at this firm and we are the best lawyers in the business." And I think that's really challenging for most brands, because they also have their own key messages, they have their own things that they want to get out into the marketplace, but they really need to twist that and say, how do we get those messages out, but how do we be entertaining at the same
Would
time?
a good way to think about it be like, how would an influencer or like a creator talk about our brand or tell our story? Is that kind of a good way of framing it?
That's a good way of framing it. And I would even say, first step is maybe even hiring some of those people to help you sort it out, right? Because they will have a very good sense of what's working on the platform, how to storytell better than you probably can yourself. And, it's not that expensive to hire one of these people to show you the way. An agency like us, we're very expensive. We're going to start with, strategy, content strategy, audience strategy. We're going to start with a lot of different things that maybe you don't need. Maybe you just need to hire a creator and say, "Hey, show me, how do I actually build entertaining content around my, sewage removal business?"
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "Oh, we'll have lots of ideas." And they'll go for it. And then you'll be like, "Oh, okay." But it is a muscle. I mean, learning how to entertain, learning how to storytell. I mean, it's a special skill. I got to say, it's not something that I've seen most business owners being good at.
No.
So, and they're often keep pulling towards, okay, but how does this help me sell stuff? And how does this, if I don't have my get 20% off now call to action in here, how do I know it's helping me move my business forward? So it's tough, to do both things, to be entertaining, to stick to some sort of strategy, and then also sort of help your sales goals. And I would say maybe you have to ignore your sales goals for the first little bit.
Yeah. What's a little bit?
I would say you should, I'm a firm believer in sort of the Gary V jab, jab, right hook, or jab, 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 right hook, which is, I think, putting out 80% of your content is jabs, which are essentially relationship building, brand affinity building, brand awareness building, and then your 20% is call to action. Get this, buy this from us. This will solve your problem. So you have to, but there's lots of brands that do it successfully, where they're able to highlight the challenge that their company solves, while at the same time entertaining. If you can find that sweet spot, that's awesome. You should just keep hammering that home, because that's the gold.
Okay,
Yeah.
so moving to distribution then. So where do we post? Do we just post everywhere the same things, or how should we think about that?
I mean, you can. I mean, what I think is interesting is that YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels are still very much in need of content.
Yes.
And what's interesting is like you don't know what's going to pop off on any channel. Like I've seen so many videos and so many case studies lately of people that have posted on Instagram and also on YouTube Shorts and also on TikTok, and they've done that on 5 or 6 different videos, and then they compare the stats. And what's interesting is like they can't really figure out like why did this do well here and not here? Why did this do well on TikTok but not on Reels? But this performed really good on Reels but not on YouTube Shorts. It's sort of a crapshoot. So when I say like also going back to you don't know what's going to work until you press publish, I think it's interesting to go out on all of these channels and just see what is actually working. And I would maybe stagger it so it's not just all at once, but it's like, okay, we'll do this video on TikTok today, and then we'll do a different one on YouTube tomorrow, and then we'll do the same one on Instagram Reels in a week's time. So it's like it's a little bit different time, so it's not all at the same time. Because I think with the staggering method, you kind of get a chance to get some of the data in, see what's working. You also, if there is a chance that they see it in one place at the same time as the other place, then it's at least it doesn't come off as like, oh, I just saw this. Maybe you get a chance to refresh their memory if they've seen it in both places. So that's what I would say is sort of stagger it.
I think that's great. I think to your point, I think that different channels might have different personalities, right? Or traits or audiences that are expecting different things. And I think also then just not putting everything out at the same time, but at different days and stuff, I think is great. What about, paid distribution? A lot of our clients are good at creating vertical video, and we usually just watch, what's spreading organically, and then we just amplify it through paid. So what do you think about paid distribution, and how should small brands talk about it or think about it?
I think that's a great methodology. I think that it's better to put your money on winners than it is to try to make a loser win through just paid distribution. Yeah. Because the thing is that if it's working organically, it typically means that it struck a chord with somebody. It's relevant. It's interesting for your audience, and that's the kind of stuff that you want to pull over to paid distribution. I also think there's a big opportunity for most brands to produce their organic TikToks and then pull them over to Facebook ad with that sort of right hook, like we were talking about, jab, right hook, that is more like, hey, here's this, viral video, but then there's links to actually go buy, that product or buy that service from you. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity in producing very entertaining, socially organic content that you see if it performs well, and then you pull it into advertising on a completely different platform and use that to build awareness, but then also try to get them into some sort of sales intent situation. So I think there's a lot to be said there. I probably wouldn't push a loser. Like I probably wouldn't say like, let's just push everything. I think that can be, that'll erode your budget pretty quick. And I don't think it's the most effective way of using advertising.
Yeah. Okay, so last thing, let's play a game. Let's switch gears. I'm now a small business. I'm an e-com dude. I produce Italian handmade shoes, and I'm one marketing team show. I do everything. I'm super stressed, but I know that I need to focus on creating content. So, how should I think around my content production, and how often should I post, and where should I post?
Okay, so taking this specifically, yes. I think there is a big opportunity in showcasing what is good handmade quality and what is not. So using your expertise to educate people on what is nice Italian leather, what is bad Italian leather, how to spot the difference. So not even to be about selling your own product, but really about leading with value first to help your audience make better purchase decisions when it comes to fine leather goods or fine handmade goods. And that will go a long, long way, because you'll become a trusted person, a trusted brand that obviously like wants to help the consumer. You can do a lot of videos that explain the leather, explain the process, then combine that with, this is how we make our product, and not even selling it, not even saying, and you can get this in our store tomorrow for $200 or $500, or I wouldn't even do that. I think you're going to find that most people are going to ask you in the comments, hey, where was this and how do I get this? This looks like an amazing shoe. And instead of just like sending them the link, I think there's an opportunity to also build a dialogue with them. You can, of course, say, hey, we'd love to send you a pair, or we'd love to have you purchase our thing. Here's a link, but why don't you tell us like what other leather goods or what other things would you like us to make in the future, and try to start a dialogue with your community instead of just pushing product. I think that's a really good strategy to build up an audience very quickly, and also to be seen as that trusted advisor. Yeah. Now, I will add this though, like you need to have some entertainment in it. So you got to be, a little bit, I would say, try to find the angle into how to make this an interesting piece of content than just you, like with a camera cutting up leather or whatever it is. There has to be some performance in this that makes people go, okay, this guy's interesting. Mm-hmm. And I would look at almost like how you'd produce a personal brand or how you produce a show, have something that is consistent that you do that nobody else does, whether that's a weird intro, whether that's a weird phrase, or something you say that is just different and sets you apart. Also look at the branding of your videos. Is there something that you can do, certain lighting, certain set, stage, or something that like makes it so that when people are scrolling, they see, oh, this is Luigi's Fine Italian. I know it's always Luigi's Fine Italian because it looks just like this. I love this guy's content or this girl's content, and sort of look at that as well, I would say, would be very important.
Good. So then we have kind of the concept down. Should I bulk produce this? Should I try to have a video every day? How should I think about that?
Yeah, I would say like try to start with 3 times a week, and then see how what's performing, and then go again the next week, pick out what's working, try to adjust your strategy to figure out what's continually getting better, what's getting comments, what's not getting comments, what are people saying, can I adjust to those comments, to that, what the community is asking for. And then I would try to bump it up to 4 days a week and see how this goes. And then I would bring them over to other platforms to see how does it perform there.
Great.
And that's what I would do. And try to keep it at also a pace that you can continually keep the ideas flowing. Yes. The good thing about leather goods, I mean, there's just like so much to talk about. Tanning, there's structure, there's how do you glue things together, how do you shape leather, how do you source leather, how do you stamp it, how do you design it, how do others do it? Like I've seen lots of videos of people pulling apart extremely expensive goods. So that's also like what we're seeing. There's a real desire for highly unobtainable things. So if you're taking a Louis Vuitton bag, or you're taking a really expensive shoe and sort of taking it apart, that's going to trigger a part of someone's brain like, oh God, I got to see what they do with this $1,000 bag. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that'll go viral if you're going to tear apart a Louis Vuitton bag.
So your tip to
show
small
how.
business owners is buy some expensive shit and just tear it apart in one video. No, but I think
That's probably what I would do.
I think it's good concrete advice, and you know surprisingly a lot about leather, so that's interesting.
I don't. The funny thing is, I don't know a lot about leather, but I think like my brain goes to, and it goes where everything. I mean, it could be if you're making candles or you're making face creams or you're making like I think there's always a need for, hey, we bought this extremely expensive face cream from so and so. Let's see what's in the product. Let's take it apart. Let's see. Let's dig a bit. Because you're always going to catch an audience that's like, oh, I always wanted to own that, or I always wanted to have that. Let's see what's behind the curtain here. You'll always do well with those sort of things, and it is really leading with entertainment and leading with value for the audience first and foremost, and then you can worry about sales later because people will trust you, and then you can sell them your own face cream.
Yeah. This is great, Chris. Thank you so much. So to everyone listening and watching, remember to check out Chris's podcast and other links in the description. You're also doing TikToks and all of the things, practicing, doing what you're preaching. What's the word I'm trying to say?
Practice what I preach.
You're practicing what you preach.
Sometimes I do.
So yeah, remember.
Sometimes I'm my own worst client.
Yeah. Aren't we all? I mean, that's how it goes. Well, thank you so much for your time, exactly. Chris. And thank you guys for listening and watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.